Welcome to the Big Picture Manatee, everyone. We're very excited to be back again today with a new episode about the new college land deal that recently ran into some roadblocks. And I'm Sherry Courier, former county administrator with Manatee County, here with my other colleagues from the Big Picture Manatee.
Hey everybody, I'm Misty Servia, former county commissioner and urban planner. Happy to be here. And so, Reggie?
Hey everyone, my name is Reggie Bellamy, former county commissioner of District 2, proud veteran of the United States Army.
So you can see we also have a guest on today's show, and we are so excited to welcome Dawn Kitterman with the Bradenton Times. Welcome, Dawn. Happy to have you here to talk about this subject matter.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Nice to see all your faces.
Well, we're going to dive into this subject about this recent denial by the FAA to the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. And I think, Misty, you know a little bit more about what's happening recently. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So Dawn, thanks for being here. So this deal is about 30 acres. It sits next to New College and the Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport. And then to everyone's surprise, the FAA put the hammer down and killed the deal. What happened?
So in matters like this, the goal of the FAA is to look at what is actually advantageous for the airport system. And just like, in the world of planning for development of homes and urban layouts, the FAA needs to look at what is the thought to be possible future growth and what will be required to sustain that future growth. And now, obviously, with an airport, you don't have an option of doing like leapfrog development. You need adjacent lands to support such expansions. So that was how they looked at the request or the proposal that the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport Authority would sell the land to New College, which New College is already using that land through a lease agreement, but to permanently transfer it. And the FAA looked at it in those terms and said, we don't think this is actually a good deal for the airport.
Well, I think the interesting thing, I've been here recently looking at some appraisals through some personal matters. And what come to my attention is the FAA response listed the fair market value of the property around 1.3 million. But the current lease rate to New College is only 108,000 annually. Now that's a gap. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it is. But it's important to keep in mind too that when the lease terms were first created, this was, to my understanding, prior to the FAA even being established. So this is some time ago.
Right.
Now, and I think anybody reasonably would argue, I'm sure anybody would love to have a lease that says, for 50 years, we'll never raise your rent, no matter what happens with the values, right? That seems to be what happened here. I think it's also important to note on the appraisal that the appraisal figures, according to the FAA, that they received from the airport authority for what Misty said was roughly 30 acres, really only 8 acres were included in the appraisal value when considering the sale amount. And that was one thing that they pointed out, like, hey, we've got a problem with this appraisal here because you've only actually told us what those 8 acres are worth, not the entire property.
Yeah, and wasn't there a problem with the fact that there was like an outdated plan for the airport authority's expansion, or it hadn't been updated, or maybe that college isn't a real use there?
Yeah, that is really interesting. That was intriguing to me in the letter. Wish I could remember her name to state it correctly, but the woman who wrote the letter did reference that in reviewing to assess the value or the potential need for the airport to keep this property for future growth, it references that in the letter it received from the airport authority in requesting this sale agreement to be approved, the airport authority talks about how, it already has plans for this massive growth. It's undergoing an expansion, like a $100 million, $200 million expansion project right now. I think it's 200 million. And so that's referenced in the letter from the FAA, where it says, in light of your telling us you're already undergoing all this expansion and that land isn't being accounted in that, you're not going to need it for this big growth. We've recognized we don't seem to have plans in our records that show what this expansion is or whatever. And so I think, if remembering from the top of my head, I think the letter from the FAA said the most up-to-date development plan, and it has a different word when it's the airport, but I believe they said it was dated 2016, I think it was.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I don't know how that happens. And I don't know what the requirement is about how often they need to resubmit a new plan.
Yep. Yep. A lot of interesting questions for a location that's, deemed the fastest growing airport in the country, right? That they would not be able to, meet some of those known requirements, and why, because those buildings have been there so long. The buildings at New College have been there. How long? Who knows that answer to that question? How long have those been there?
A long time.
Yeah.
I feel like 1950s, it was sometime in the 50s that this lease was arranged, I believe. I don't have the exact year, but I believe.
I was just going to add, at one time, when I was a commissioner, the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport was the fastest growing in the world.
Right. Right.
I think that still may be the case.
Right, which is great for travelers, which is great for all involved, and we want everyone to come to our community and support, and economic dollars, tourist dollars, and things like that. I think that's important to acknowledge. But we do have a little hiccup here, and I think that's the concern here, the hiccup as far as how the process is, shall I say?
Yeah.
Well, and I think it bodes well while the letter from the FAA obviously seemed pretty clearly not in support of the airport selling the land to anybody, New College, anyone. I think one positive in that message is that the FAA does believe that there will continue to be enough expansion at that airport that it's going to need that acreage at some point. So that actually is a positive sign for the potential future of what that airport might become in another 3 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. How common is it for the FAA to issue a letter like this? Does anybody know?
I am unable to answer that question.
Well, I don't know about how common, but I can say that I was concerned enough about that type of denial that I reached out to a couple friends that I have that were, they're 30 plus years FAA employees all over the country. And I asked them to read the letter to try to give me a sense of the level of whether this was just your average, form letter, or whether there was really specifics there. And they both indicated their shock that it was a very harshly, written and poignant letter. And with the 7 points of concern, basically, that they had, they thought there was a pretty harsh message there. So, I just kind of relied on folks that were normally working in that industry.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and I don't mean to play Monday morning quarterback, but as someone who does a lot of due diligence, that would be the first place, I think, one of the first places you would go to make sure that all the boxes were checked and everything was a-okay before moving on a deal. So it is interesting.
So so I don't know how the rest of you guys feel about this, and Dawn, if you have any information to chime in on, but I mean, this was clearly planned out before it was really researched as to whether it could be done. So there was some sort of comfort level that it was going to happen. I mean, I've read in various articles written across all of the media sources that there's supposed to be like a political firestorm that's predicted, that this is going to really, rise up, and this going to be forced to make it happen. I mean, has any of the rest of you guys heard that?
Well, I haven't heard it, but when I seen and looked at the article and talk about the denial, a political firestorm at that level is guaranteed. So now you want to know the who, the what, the when, where, and the how, as far as with the major players. And I think there'll be some type of backlash. I also believe there'll be more to come and more information that we're going to have to, kind of seek out on this. But any type of denial brings up a lot of questions, especially when you're talking about an international airport.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I've seen reporting that shows it does not look as though the airport intends to give up. They intend to, I don't know if there is a process for an appeal, if that's what it would be called, but based on some things I have read stated by the president, Mr. Piccolo, he thinks that this letter was an error or is not looking at the full context or something, not considering all aspects of the deal. And so he intends to, I guess, continue to try to negotiate or get a re-review with the FAA over the deal. I do find it interesting too, because it was not that long ago that the Manatee County Commission approved to hand some land over now, albeit a fraction of the acreage size of what this land deal would be about. But New College has been, as everyone knows, it's gone through a lot in the last year, a lot of change, top to bottom, in that order, top to bottom. And I know at the time that the land that Manatee County approved to give to New College is land that Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, who I think was chair at the time, said he felt New College would be better served with that land than the previous university that I guess the county had been in negotiation with, because New College was doing so many good things for the transformation, was stomping out woke and all of this. So the county, or at least the commission, made it clear that their desire to do a land deal with New College seemed to be largely rooted in politics and, maybe the governor's agenda and the New College agenda. And, there's definitely some faces at New College, I think, that are not strangers to Manatee County or to local politics.
Yeah.
Well,
what you're talking about there is I think, if I recall, about 7 acres, that it's not adjacent to New College property right now. It's actually, connected to University of South Florida, Sarasota-Manatee, and the Crosley estate.
yeah, Reggie and I voted on that. I remember
Right.
that. I think you said it all on when you said it may be rooted in politics. I think everything these days seems to be rooted in politics.
So Dawn, we know this is an ever evolving story. We hope that when we hear new news, you'll be willing to come back and talk to us about it more, because we know you're going to be doing your investigative reporting, which is so beneficial to getting truthful information.
Thank you. I'd be happy to return.
Yeah, I just want to add, Dawn, thank you from me, and I know from the three of us, for your very outstanding reporting. Every week, you are just killing it with the detailed, factual, wonderful reporting. We can't thank you enough. I know your efforts are consuming your life, and time and energy, but we're all so grateful for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, Don, my hats go out to you for providing that deep depth dive into all the different issues that go on here in Manatee County, and hopefully we can get you back again here soon.
All right, so that's it from the Big Picture Manatee. Thanks for tuning in today. And remember, everyone, we're here for you to stay informed, engaged, and be connected with us.
And be sure to go to our YouTube page, The Big Picture Manatee, subscribe while you're there, like our videos, tell your friends, and please keep watching.
We can also be found on Facebook at The Big Picture Manatee and on our webpage, thebigpicturemanatee.com. Let us know what other content you want to hear about from us. Look forward to seeing and hearing from you all.
All right, see you, everybody. Thanks
Bye,
again.
everybody.